Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Stephen Harvey. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. This is the Harvey Hour. It's weird. We're on a Saturday now. It's a weird day. I was off on vacation yesterday. That's why the show didn't happen yesterday. But I'm back in full swing. Time for a great show. We got a lot of topics to talk about today. We got some of the Knicks game last night, We got an interesting coming from out of Miami. Tua is missing from voluntary camp. This is unusual for him. We'll talk about that. And also, Game 7 for the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers is tomorrow. We'll also discuss who we think will close out the series based on what's happened. And obviously, New York Giants not doing so well in the quarterback situation. We'll talk about that as well. But let's talk about last night's game, which is the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. The Pacers were up as much as 23 at one point in this game as the Knicks fall in Game 6, 116-103 at the hands of the Indiana Pacers. Pascal Siakam led the way for the Pacers, scoring 25 points along with 7 rebounds and 5 assists, while Jalen Brunson, not a great first half whatsoever, bounced back in the second half with 31 points, ended the game also with 5 assists. Well, Josh Hart dealing with an injury, a decent injury that sidelined him for the end of the game, could not finish the game on the court. Dante DiVincenzo did an okay job, but all around the Knicks did not look good, did not shoot the ball very well. So I want to know, what was your reaction to last night's game with Indiana taking Game 6?
The Pacers have the key to beating the Knicks at home when they play at home, and that is to defend Jalen Brunson all over the court. Sometimes triple teaming him, generally double teaming him, Nesmith on him, shadowing him everywhere he goes in the first half. It worked extremely well. He was 2 of 13 in the first half and 0 for 6 in the second quarter. And I think the defense had a lot to do with his poor play. He said that it was a mixture of missing shots and then playing really well. Well, he's right. They did play very well. They played very well at home. The Knicks are lucky that they still have the home court advantage to finish out the series here in Game 7 at home. That's going to be big, Sunday at 3:30 p.m. This is the first Game 7 at MSG for basketball since 1995. And guess who the Knicks lost to?
Pacers?
The Pacers in 1995. I hope that's not an omen for this game, particularly given the way they play when Anunoby is not playing. He's got that hamstring injury, and I just had a hamstring injury, so I know how sore that is. That's hard to come back from in a short period of time. They think he might play in Game 7, but will he be? He won't be close to 100%, I don't think
so.
So without him, the Knicks have lost 3 or 4, and that's tough. And they win 20 games and lose 3 when he's on the court. So he's very important to them. So is Josh Hart. Josh Hart is hurt with an abdominal injury. He left in the fourth quarter with abdominal soreness. If he can't go and Anunoby can't go, man, I think it'll be very hard for the Knicks to win. So I'm very worried about it. Thibodeau says that Brunson will figure it out somehow and that he played well in the second half.
He did.
Indiana was good at home. They fed off the energy in the crowd. The Knicks have to do the same when they get back to MSG. So far, they beat the Pacers 3 times at MSG. Can they beat them a 4th time? Winning 4 games in a row against the team at home is hard to do. I think it's very hard to do, particularly if you're going to be on demand, and that's it's a possibility. And even if they have all those guys, they're injured. They're not playing at 100%. And we talked about this all through the series when the Knicks are playing these guys 48 minutes a game. It catches up to you, and it has caught up to the Knicks.
Well, big time, because now you have Precious Achiuwa having to play 25 and a half minutes. Now you got Alec Burks actually playing. He took a month off, and he's contributed decently. He's not
I think he's played reasonably well.
No, yeah, and especially when coming off that month. Now, in this game, he didn't play very well. He shot 2 of 8, but he also played the most amount of minutes he's ever played in the series so far with 24 minutes. So this entire game was just not a good look for the Knicks whatsoever. Jalen Brunson made his first 2 shots of the game, then missed 11 straight by the end of the first half. You can't do that and expect to win. You were up by 1 at the end of the first quarter, and then you went down by 10 to close out the first half. You can't let that happen. That's not something, and I said that going into the series was this Indiana Pacers team is number 1 or number 2 in possessions, in pace, which is possessions or I guess it's possessions throughout the 48 minutes of the game. So the Indiana Pacers move the ball. They get the ball a lot. They're second in offensive rating. So this team was going to score a lot. They're going to shoot a lot because they have the opportunity to shoot a large amount of baskets. And that's exactly what the series is. Not only that, the Knicks, if they get into a shooting slump like they did sometimes in the 76ers series, I said, the Pacers, you will need to keep up with them or at least try to slow them down. Because if you don't keep up with them and you can't slow them down, it's going to be games like this. You're going to get blown out like 2 games ago at Indiana where you could not shoot the basketball whatsoever. Jalen Brunson was not great. Dante DiVincenzo disappeared. And in this game, the first half was actually kind of kind to Dante DiVincenzo. He shot 60% from the floor, 50% from 3 at 15 points. Even Miles McBride, Deuce McBride contributed with 6 of 8 in the first half and 3 of 3 from 3 for 15 points. And in the second half, disappeared. 5 points from Miles McBride, and then Dante DiVincenzo didn't make a single basket after that. He remained at 6 total shots made. He also made 2 free throws to increase from 15 to 17. Jalen Brunson had a pretty good second half, like you mentioned. I believe he had 23 points in the second, 26 points in the second half, but the first half was really where they lost. Free throws, free throws, free throws. I can't stress this enough. They could barely shoot from the free throw line against the 76ers, and I said that will come back to bite you, and it did. In this first half, they missed 7 free throws. They shot 46% from the charity stripe. What's the first word in free throw? Free. Free points. No one's blocking you. No one's doing anything. It's a free shot, and you're missing. You got to practice your free throws. That's something that people in Pee Wee basketball do. Layup lines, free throw lines. That's what you do. You got to make your free throws. So the Knicks were just massively disappointing in this game. They couldn't shoot the ball whatsoever. The Pacers, they incredible passing happening throughout this game. Miles Turner had a great play, dunking over Isaiah Hartenstein. They were moving the ball incredibly well. Obi Toppin contributed. And I think really underrated player that I think might deserve a starting spot, maybe with the Pacers next season or somewhere else if he leaves, is TJ McConnell. He is contributing massively off the bench. He had 15 points. Him and Obi Toppin, I believe, lead the league in bench points. So they are incredible playmakers. TJ McConnell did an absolute number on Jalen Brunson, forcing him into some very, very difficult shots. And like you said, Nesmith. It's the same thing the Heat did. It's the same thing the 76ers tried. Make Brunson fight for every single touch of the basketball.
And bang him up. Play physical. You know, it's like somebody looked like they were playing football out there.
Right, and that gets into Brunson's head because he's expecting a call, so he'll take some unusual shots like he did actually throughout this entire series.
Brunson's game, he expends a ton of energy in the game, and you can see that it wears him down a little bit. And I got to say, you know, the Pacers are going to play this strategy again in Game 7. They're going to double
100%.
Brunson. They're going to make the other guys beat him, and so far that's working really well. And the Knicks, things that they could do, move the ball around a little bit more. Try to move the ball side to side and try to create some seams in the defense of the Pacers to maybe Brunson can get open or somebody else can get open for some easy shots. And also the rebounding. Come on. The Knicks have the better physicality there. And they blew it last night.
They got rebounded by 12.
They have total rebounds, 47 for the Pacers and only 35 for the Knicks.
Yeah.
And the Pacers wound up getting 9 extra shots as a result of that. So that's big.
Well, not only that,
and that's something the Knicks can't let happen. They can't let
Right.
that happen. They should not let that happen. They've got the bigger guys.
Absolutely.
They should be able to outmuscle the Pacers on the boards, and they've got to do that in Game 7 for sure.
Well, not only that, Hartenstein, we saw him, just the previous game, I think at 12, or was it 12 offensive rebounds? He completely took over, allowed the Knicks so many second chance opportunities.
He
did not have a very good game.
at all.
Defensively, he was the worst defender out of the main starters, defensive rating wise.
7 rebounds.
It's not great. 4 points as well. You only took 3 shots. But this Knicks team is interesting because they can't stop they try to, and sometimes they slow it down. But they cannot fully stop the fast tempo that the Pacers play with because that creates open shots. That creates great shots. I mean, think about this. I think they assisted on their first 5 shots. All of their first 5 baskets were assisted on. They outbeat the Knicks in assists by 15, 35-20. They're getting the ball to the playmakers. Tyrese Halliburton hit a couple very, very nice three-pointers, along with Nembhard. He shot the crazy three that actually could have been the turnaround in the series. It was in Game 3, if I'm not mistaken. Shoots the crazy three towards the end of the shot clock. Flipped that game around entirely. Flipped the series around maybe, where the Knicks maybe could have swept this if you're up 3-0 going into Game 4. But instead, the Pacers were able to tie it up 2 apiece, and here we are. So...
the Knicks had the chance to win one at the Pacers, the last Friday night's game, and that was a week ago Friday. That was a tough loss.
soul-crushing.
That was a tough loss.
It was. And now the Knicks weren't that banged up. Yes, they did lose a couple pieces like Mitch Robinson. They also lost. They've had Julius Randle out for a large period of time. But in this series, Bogdanovich gone. Now OG Anunoby's barely played a minute. He's been out for the past couple games. Now you got Hart dealing with an injury. Brunson was dealing with an injury. I mean, this entire team is banged up entirely, and now you're going in, potentially, if you somehow pull out in Game 7, you're going up against the relatively healthy Celtics team with Porzingis out only Game 1, Game 2.
I can't think about that. They got to think about tomorrow and how they can get a win. And
I'm
that's
going to be
it's going to be very hard.
You're going in, you're going to be hurt, you're going to be banged up.
Yeah, well, they got to play good defense. They got to control the boards. They got to get Brunson open for the easier shots.
Well, I would just say also Brunson usage rate nearly 40%. Pass the ball around, please. You were averaging double-digit assists. And now in this series, when things get a little bit rough, it goes back to Brunson or bust. If he can't move the ball around, the Knicks are screwed. And I think in large part because Donte DiVincenzo didn't really shoot at all in the second half. Miles McBride, like I said, had a very hot stroke, 15 points, 6 of 8 from the floor in the first half. Barely shot again. You need to keep your shooters shooting at an efficient clip. Otherwise, you're going to have Jalen Brunson do everything over again. Jalen Brunson took 13 shots. He doubled that in the second half. Let your playmakers make plays. Donte DiVincenzo, sharpshooter from 3. Miles McBride, not great defensively. Make him shoot some threes.
Only 5 assists for Brunson. That's about half of what he normally gets. So,
especially in this playoff series. He was averaging 11 going into this series. And now you're down. I believe he's by around 8 now. Yeah. So I would think the Knicks need to move the ball more. There were a number of times where Brunson would just drive, throw up a crazy shot, hope he gets fouled, which now no one's really calling any fouls in this series. We heard the Pacers whine and complain about that at the end of Game 2. Now really nobody's getting a foul call. There were a couple of very late foul calls in this game, but I'm not going to complain about the foul call at all. Just, you got to play better. The Pacers are playing very physically. They're not a good defensive team whatsoever. But right now, they're just hitting shots, and the Knicks aren't.
They played good defense against Brunson. When you got 3 guys on him, it's pretty hard for him to hit a shot. You would think that he could find the open man, and those guys got to knock down some shots. That's the only way I see the Knicks winning this game of 7. I think it's going to be very close. I think it'll be very hard for the Knicks to win if they don't have those 2 guys and they can't play effectively.
And not only that, you're going to need your playmakers, like I said, to make plays. Donte DiVincenzo needs to hit more than 3 threes. He needs to go off. If you got to get everything you can out of Josh Hart if he's able to play. And Brunson, he's going to need to get hot early and to maintain that. He might need to score 44 points again in order for them to win.
I think so.
You can't rely on Miles McBride to carry the rest of the way.
Game, though.
He did have I'm not saying he didn't have a good game, but I'm saying you can't rely on him. You can't rely on Deuce McBride to take you to the promised land. You're going to need your more experienced, more efficient players.
It's because of injuries.
Right.
He's out there so much,
You're going to need to have Alec Burks hit more than 2 shots. You're just going to need to.
He'll play better when they play at home, I think.
And that's what I think the Knicks can't allow if they were to move on. You can't be only a home court advantage team. That doesn't win championships because you're going to go up against the higher seeded team and a better chemistry team, most likely.
Well, they can't look at that. They got to figure out a way to win tomorrow.
And it's going to be very, very difficult. But they are at Madison Square Garden. Massive Game 7 for them. We'll see if they can move on, which we'll talk about later on in the show.
I'll be watching.
It's going to be very, very fun to watch. Let's get into our next topic here. So this is quite interesting. So Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports came out with the report potentially mentioning Tua Tagovailoa sending a message to the Miami Dolphins, and this is what his report was. Tagovailoa has been absent for a large majority of voluntary work since the Dolphins reported back April 15th. This is a stark contrast to his first 4 seasons in the league when Tagovailoa was present for most of the voluntary work. Sources believe his absence is related to his contract status. Now, he is playing on the 5th-year option, which is a little bit over $23 million for this season. Now, the Spot Track has the estimated salary value at $49.3 or $49.6 million per season. We just saw Jared Goff get 53. We saw Kirk Cousins get 45. Joe Burrow's at 55. We see a number of contracts coming out, large contract extensions, and now it's Tua's turn. With Jared Goff's contract extension being $53 million, I want to know, do you expect the Dolphins to give Tua his contract extension before week 1?
I'm not sure about that. I almost think they're not going to do it. I think they're not close to a deal right now. He's skipping workouts, trying to send a message to them maybe. He may play 24 on the 5th-year option. I don't think that's what anybody really wants, but I don't think the Dolphins want to pay him the kind of money that Jared Goff got or Jalen Hurts got with his extension or Lamar Jackson got with his extension last year. I mean, they could pay him the almost $24 million this year, franchise tag him next year.
Right.
Yeah. Their GM has got a history of making up his mind about what he wants to give players, and if they don't agree to it, they're gone. Right? That happened to Christian Wilkins. They made him a couple of offers, which he declined, and he wound up with the Raiders for almost he got a $110 million contract, and Robert Hunt also offered an extension, but he declined. We got $100 million from the Panthers. So this guy Greer, he's not somebody who backs down. He knows what he wants to pay, and if the players don't want it, then they can go. I mean, in Tua's case, he have his 5th-year option contract this year, and they can franchise tag him. And it might not be a bad idea, Nate, because you saw what happened to him in 2022. He got those number of concussions and actually missed quite a bit of playing time. This year he played, in 23, he played all 17 games, and he led the league in yardage, but he can't get them. He hasn't been able to get them a playoff win.
Right.
Right. So those are issues. I think there's a fair chance that he'll play on the option year contract this year.
Well, absolutely. I think you bring up a really good point. He did have the head injuries. And not only did he have the head injuries, he had 2 of them. I think a lot of people are kind of saying that he had 2 confirmed concussions, but he had one. The first one, people thought, it kind of looks like he did. But you also bring up something very, very fascinating. He missed a lot of playing time and has yet to give the Dolphins a playoff win. I think we all know why. Tua is a warm weather quarterback. And there is no, but if, mate, no. The numbers say that he is not a cold weather quarterback, and that's when the playoffs happen. In games 45 degrees or below, he's 0-6, has a 57% completion percentage, 253 yards, not bad per game, 87 touchdowns to 11 picks, that isn't bad, 6.8 yards an attempt, not terrible, it's a little bit low for the top-tier quarterbacks, and a passer rating of 67, that is abysmal. So he's not a good cold weather quarterback.
Well, the whole team is not good in cold weather.
Well, yeah, because
not just him. I think I agree. He's not good in cold weather, but the rest of the team isn't either. Well, they play in a warm weather environment.
Correct.
They're not used to the cold weather, and that's what it takes to get to the NFC AFC championship game. You're going to have to play a game or 2 in cold weather.
Well, I'm gonna use your stance on me when we've discussed quarterbacks and future projections for teams. Is quarterback holds the ball in every play. I don't care about the rest of the team because the quarterback has to get him the ball.
Yeah.
If your running back can't handle the cold, then that's something. But if you're wide receiver is one of the most, if not the most, dependent position in the NFL.
You would think Tyreek Hill, he should be used to cold weather
Kansas
play.
City.
He played in Kansas City.
And it's
played
not
in some
bad.
very cold games, too.
Absolutely. The 2018 AFC Championship game was a freezing cold game.
Yeah.
And that's also we have to realize. Tua looks great because he has 2 phenomenal receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I believe they added a third one as well this offseason. So the Dolphins weapon-wise is great, and that actually led to Tua having a tremendous year. They signed Odell Beckham. So that led Tua to having his best season of his career so far with 4,600 yards, led the NFL in that, and 29 touchdowns, but the 14 picks is also the most in the in his career. And he also had 69% completion percentage this season. For me, I think just based on the fact that he's young, and we have to realize Goff, he's 3 or 4 years younger than Goff is. He got $53 million. If he's asking for anywhere near towards the top quarterback money-wise, I'm not giving him $55 million a year. I'm just not. And also, CBS Sports brought out their quarterback power ranking, which we keep bringing up. He's 12th, above Jared Goff. I would put Goff above him.
So would I.
I would also, I think you could seriously argue that second half of Jordan Love's season, you could argue, and he's already above Tua, but I know some people like Jordan Love, top 10. What? Above Tua? I think you could argue that as well. Because what we saw from Tua last season was there were a lot of questions in the MVP conversation. Who is it more? Is it Tyreek Hill going for the 2,000 yards, or is it Tua? And we saw a game against the Titans where the Titans came back. Will Levis had mounted a comeback, and the Dolphins couldn't do anything about it, really. But no. And we also have to put this into perspective. After that serious concussion season where he missed a lot of time, he was also considering retirement. And so he focused on, was it jiu-jitsu, I believe, to learn how to fall. We have to realize that these injuries come from where you don't see somebody. So you can't figure out, okay, I got to fall this way because I see a guy about to tackle me.
He was definitely playing safety-wise in this past season. I don't think he was not taking the kinds of chances he took in the prior year where he got hurt repeatedly there with his concussions. Another ding on him there is in the last week of the season, they needed to win that game 18.
Yeah.
Week 18, 17th game of the season against the Bills to win the division. And they didn't. They fell pretty far in the playoff rankings there. They might have gotten a win. If they'd stayed up at number one, they would have had an easier seed. And they didn't. They lost that game, and the Bills moved on. So that's another issue. I don't think the fans will be that upset if he doesn't get the contract right now. I think they'd be happy to see him play. He's going to play one way or the other. He may play harder and be better, maybe get a playoff win this year if he's playing on that option year contract. And then if they like what he does in 2024, then they can make him an offer then. And even if they can't agree, they can franchise tag him. So they got 2 years. They'll have 2 years out of him one way or the other, I think. So if it were me, I probably wouldn't give him a big contract right now.
I'm not either, because what we saw last season as well is they couldn't beat any good teams. Offensively, they were horrible. They scored 20 points or more twice, and they played, I think, relatively good teams. So the Bills twice, the Chiefs twice, including the playoffs, the Eagles, Ravens, Cowboys. I think those are very good teams. Now, the Eagles, the defense sucked, which actually hurts the Dolphins' case even more, because they played the Eagles and lost 31-17. Got absolutely smoked, and that was actually before the Eagles completely collapsed. But they lost 48-20 to the Buffalo Bills, 31-17 to the Eagles, 21-14 to the Chiefs. That was what was it, Frankfurt? It was some international game. Then you had a walk-off field goal against the Cowboys, but then lost 56-19 to the Ravens. I believe that was the game after Lamar crushed the 49ers. They were on a hot streak at that point. Then you lost 21-14 to the Bills, and then in the freezing cold game, lost 26-7. 7 points against the Chiefs in that wild card game. So this Dolphins team could not beat good teams. That was large part led by Tua. Yeah. Because the defenses would go up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and sometimes Jalen Waddle was banged up, but go up against, these types of receivers, slow them down, make Tua make the big play, and he couldn't. He absolutely couldn't. So I think we're playing, the Dolphins are going to play a little bit of a risky game. They were also one of the best running teams, if not the best, I believe. They were the 6th best rushing team, but led the league in rushing touchdowns. So Tua had a very nice, balanced offense. What happens when there's imbalance? I don't think Tua could step up to the task.
Yeah.
Because if you go up against a good team, with an inconsistent running game or inconsistent receiver play, dropping passes, kind of like the Chiefs had last season, I don't think Tua could figure it out and make the big-time play.
No.
Because what we saw last season was against good teams, doesn't succeed. Isn't good enough. He was too reliant on Tyreek Hill. And that kind of, killed their chances in large part. And I'll bring it up again just to reiterate this point is, in the big-time games, the playoff games, when it is cold, he's not a good quarterback. He's a horrible quarterback, actually.
Yeah.
57% completion percentage, doesn't have a single win, 67 passer rating. It's not
pretty
good.
poor.
It's not good at all.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Do you think that if the Dolphins, if he said, okay, I'll take $45 million for a long-term extension, do you
5
think
years, $45 million, I'd do it.
I think
He's good
they
enough.
would do it too. I think that's what they're trying to send a message to him about. They want a lower contract value, and they'll give him a longer extension, but they're not willing to go into the $50 million a year territory to sign him.
Well, he also hurt his own value by talking about him thinking about retirement. And also the Dolphins have to realize he might be one more concussion injury from him being medically unable to play.
Yeah.
Due to the chance of, if he has another one, to have like serious brain damage or whatnot.
And those are all things to consider. Very important things to consider.
These types of injuries, they're serious. We saw what happened.
Smart to stay on the $24 million contract. He's got an incentive to play hard because he'll be in a free agent year then. And if he does great, they can try to negotiate with him again. If they can't reach a deal, they get one more year with him on a franchise deal.
I would say you also, and you talk about this a couple times with other players, is put in a clause. If you get hurt, your contract can be voided. Have something along the lines of that.
He may not sign something like that.
Or the contract gets cut decently if you end up getting hurt. Some sort of team injury guarantee instead of a player injury guarantee, which the person we're going to talk about next after the break, Daniel Jones, is lucky enough to have an injury guarantee, which could make that contract fully guaranteed. But we are going to take a quick break. But coming up, like I mentioned, so according to Connor Hughes of SNY, we're looking at a potential only penciled-in Giants quarterback depth chart, potentially allowing Daniel Jones to be replaced by Drew Lock, as well as we make our predictions for Game 7 of tomorrow's game between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. All of that coming up right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Connor Hughes of SNY gave an interesting update on the situation on a piece published on SNY on Friday where he said, Big Blue will head into camp with Lock behind Daniel Jones. The whispers are getting louder that the quarterbacking depth chart is written in pencil, though. Head coach Brian Daboll will play the player he believes gives the Giants the best chance. Understandable, considering what might happen if things go poorly. Daniel Jones still rocking that 4 years, $160 million contract, entering year 2 of it. At the end of this, the Giants do have an out where the dead cap money gets cut pretty significantly, so they could move off him. And signing Drew Lock is definitely an interesting signing because we heard Joe Shane, and I'm going to bring up this clip real quick, talking about their quarterback situation all the way back in last November. So take a quick listen to Joe Shane, the GM of the Giants, talking about their quarterback situation.
The expectation is when Daniel's healthy that he will be our starting quarterback. As I think we're going to have to do something in the quarterback, whether it's free agency or the draft. I mean, just where we are. Tyrod's contract's up. DeVito is obviously under contract, and Daniel, we don't know when he's going to be ready. So, just from an off-season program standpoint, I think that'll be a position that we'll have to look. Again, there's different avenues, free agency or the draft, but we'll have to address it at some point.
So I want to know, how many games do you think Daniel Jones will end up starting for the New York Giants this upcoming season?
Well, I think it depends on how he plays. If he goes out and loses to the Vikings and the Commanders in the first 2 games of the season, then I think you'll see Drew Lock in there pretty fast because Brian Daboll's on the hot seat this year. If he doesn't get it done and you get to around Christmas time and the Giants are, at the bottom of the heap and really low in all the stats and last place in the NFC East, then I think Bill Belichick will be getting a call.
Wow. You think Bill Belichick's going to be out there, coaching up the Giants?
That's one of the teams he said he would love to be head coach of. So, and I think that it will be there for him if the Giants tank this year.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they'll have to necessarily tank because I think Daniel Jones is that bad, and I'm not the only one. We brought this up earlier on in the show with the CBS Power Rankings for the quarterbacks. CBS Sports even ranked Daniel Jones below rookie quarterbacks, behind backup quarterbacks. Behind
people who've never even played in the NFL. That's pretty bad, man. If I saw that was me, and I saw that, I'd say, wow, that's pretty bad. I feel bad about that.
Behind quarterbacks that barely played, like Will Levis didn't have a large playing time. Behind a quarterback that played 75 seconds, he even ranked him behind. And Aaron Rodgers, who, once again, is 11th. I don't understand that. But regardless of the fact, and people calling him a top 10 quarterback entering last season was ridiculous. I do think it's fascinating still, though, that they signed Drew Lock. Because that shows, and Drew Lock only played a couple of games, had a very nice come-from-behind victory against the Eagles last season. But I just think that it's going to be interesting to see if Daniel Jones can step it up, because what we saw last season was absolutely horrendous, and I don't think anyone can really defend him. You might complain about the offensive line and whatnot, but the Giants have had a poor offensive line for the past 6-7 seasons. Yeah. So you can't necessarily use the offensive line as being that poor. His quarterback record was 1-5. His completion percentage wasn't that bad, but he went back to old Daniel Jones. 2 picks, 6 interceptions, a couple fumbles, I believe. That's not the Daniel Jones that's worth $40 million a year. Mm-hmm. He had 4 fumbles last season. He had 10 turnovers to 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't think the Giants have ever been overly confident in Daniel Jones. Why they gave him a 4-year, $160 million contract's beyond me, when they could have given the money to Saquon Barkley and franchise tag Daniel Jones. Would have been a much smarter move, and they didn't do it. Now they're stuck with him this year for sure. But they have Drew Lock behind him, and if he gets off to a poor start, Jones, then I think you'll see Lock in there pretty fast. And they say Daboll will play the quarterback that gives them the team the best chance to win, which he's got to do because, again, he's on the hot seat. Now, you look at Jones, he's been injury-prone. He's had 2 neck injuries, a torn right ACL now. I think Locke might get in there just because they don't want Jones' contract to become guaranteed if he gets hurt.
Right.
So Jones is essentially in a contract here.
Absolutely.
If he comes out and plays well, and I think they did give him some vote of confidence by drafting a really elite wide receiver in the draft, right? Instead of a quarterback. They did consider moving up in the draft from 6 to try to get to 3 with the Patriots to get Drake May, but that didn't work out. And Daboll and Schoen reportedly have been scouting other potential replacements for Daniel Jones as far back as 2022.
Right.
And Jones had the good year and got him to the playoffs, and he got that contract. So that's where we are today. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So I think if he doesn't play well, he's going to be on the bench, and Drew Lock's going to be in there.
And I think that's what's fascinating. You bring it up. They were looking for a replacement for him 2 years ago But that was when he had a decent season. I'm not saying a good season, because if you go from absolute garbage to slightly better than that, it's still not a good season in totality. You're not a great quarterback because you have one good year, okay year.
I think they'd like to have someone around to push Jones harder. I'm not sure they think Locke is the greatest guy to do that. I think they might have liked to have gotten up to the higher draft pick to get one of the elite rookies. But they weren't able to do that. Drew Lock, 9-14 as a starter, as a second-round pick in 2019. 59% completion percentage, about almost 800 attempts, 5,300 yards passing, 28 TDs, and 23 interceptions. There's nothing to write home about. I don't think anyone thinks he's the greatest guy out there to push Daniel Jones, but that's what they've got. That's where they are right now.
Right. And the schedule came out Wednesday, and I do want to bring this up because I think it's important to see, well, let's think about it. If the quarterbacking depth chart, as Connor Hughes wrote about for SNY, is true that it's only penciled in with the potential of erasing Daniel Jones as number one and putting in Drew Lock, or hell, even Tommy DeVito for the sake of saying
Tommy DeVito. Let's not forget about him.
Well, I think he's going to be gone. This is their schedule. This is the way it looks.
Yeah.
So I decided to go best case scenario. If Daniel Jones were the starting quarterback, I say they go 6-11 with wins over the wins over the Commanders, with wins over the Seahawks, the Saints, the Colts, and the Panthers. That's best case scenario. You go 6-11. That's not terrible.
You think they'll beat the Commanders once?
Once. I say they split because normally Daniel Jones splits with the Commanders. And then I said the worst case scenario, or as I'm saying, the most realistic case scenario. You go 2-15. And the only team you beat is you do split with the Commanders and you beat the worst team in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers. That is I think that is the worst and honestly the most realistic scenario. And I actually have the Giants losing 7 straight. I think if the Giants lose 4 straight, Drew Lock will be getting a call.
Yeah,
I think fans will be calling for him. Mm-hmm. I think Brian Daboll will be asking Joe Shane and Mara to say, hey, I'm dying over it. You're costing me my own job.
Yeah.
Let me put in Drew Lock.
Yeah, I think that's right. I would say in terms of win-loss there, I don't think they'll – although the Vikings and the Commanders both have rookie quarterback out there, right? So
I would say J.J. McCarthy, though, just with the team.
Yeah, with the team he's got around him, the pieces around him, I don't think they win game 1. And they're on the road for that game.
Okay, so let's go best case scenario with this one, okay? So,
no, they're at home for the game 1.
Correct.
I think that'll be a close game, actually.
Really?
But I do think I don't know. I don't think they're going to win that game.
So
I think
let's go best case scenario. So Vikings is a loss, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
At Commanders.
I think at Commanders, I think they win that game.
Win, okay.
Yeah. At the Cleveland, I don't think they win that one.
Loss.
Versus Dallas, I don't think they win that one.
At Seattle?
Seattle is, who's their quarterback going to be? Geno
Smith still. Sam Howell's the backup.
Yeah. I don't think they win that game.
So that's a loss. And
I don't think they win the
Bengals.
I don't think they beat the Eagles. So Saquon Barkley's going to run all over them.
Probably. And then versus Pittsburgh.
No, I don't think they win that one.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they win at Washington either. I think they do beat Carolina.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to beat the Tampa Bay, and they won't beat Dallas.
How about New Orleans?
Maybe they win that game.
They're home against New Orleans.
I give them that one.
Then versus Ravens?
No, they're going to win that one.
Kirk Cousins?
No,
Michael Penix?
They're going to win that one. They might beat the Colts.
So we'll add a W there. And then at Eagles.
They won't win that one.
So you're looking at 3 wins.
3 wins.
3 wins.
That's the end of Brian Daboll. He's done. Stick a fork in him. So
your best case scenario is 3-14.
I'm afraid. I think that's realistic. I mean, maybe they find something. Maybe is it Malik Neighbors?
Yes.
Maybe he turns into a world beater, and Daniel Jones finds a way to get him the ball a lot. That might pick him up 2 or 3 more wins, but even then, I don't think they'll never play more than they won't play 500 ball.
There is no.
There's no way they're going to play 500
This
ball.
is not a hot take, but I guarantee you Giants fans, some really loyal ones, are going to take a personal shot at this. There is a infinitesimal amount of zeros percentage that the Giants are going to go 500 or close to 500. Because you can't go 500. They're not going to go 9-8.
Anymore.
They're not going to go 8-9. It won't happen because this team is not built for winning football. Their offensive line, while it is decent because you added Aaron Stinney, you got John Runyon, Evan Neal is still your starting right tackle. That's a problem. Andrew Thomas is a very, very good left tackle. And then John Michael Schmitz, he's an okay but young center. You have Malik Neighbors, who is offensively definitely is your most talented piece, hands down. But this team is built for the defensive line, which is kind of ironic because Mike Clay, as we talked about before, he projected, how teams are going to do in their ratings or whatever. He projects the Giants to their defensive line. We have to remember this. Their defensive rating for next season will be 31st in the league. Overall rating,
really
dead last. Based on what Clay is predicting, the 2024-2025 Giants will be the worst rated team.
Will be one of the best in the league, right? The defensive line, they picked up a guy.
They do have a decent edge and interior defensive rating. It's decent, not great. The edge is significantly better.
But they have a new defensive OC, defensive coordinator, because Daboll couldn't get along with Wink Martindale.
Right.
Gave him a terrible time.
And he actually predicts Drew Lock getting in there probably the last 3 games.
Last 3 games?
Well, no, because think about this. If we're talking about...
I get he gets in there a lot sooner than that based on my predictions.
Okay, well, no, that's fair. But we have to realize that what we've seen the past couple seasons is we saw it with Russell Wilson. We saw it with Derek Carr. They each had injury guarantees. We're going to see the same thing where he's going to get benched for whatever the reason they give is. But the reality is of the situation, they're benching him to not pay him $30+ million for next season. Yeah. They want to get off of him probably instantaneously because he's no longer a great quarterback.
Well, what if he gets hurt in week 4?
Then that is quite unfortunate for the Giants.
Yeah.
Well, then who's their week 4 matchup? What's the chance? Oh, yeah, Dallas. Yeah, no, that's going to be brutal. That is going to be brutal. Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
That's
Look what happened to him last year, man. He was...
When
he dropped back to pass, the Dallas defense was there waiting for him when he got back there.
Yeah, no, it was really bad. They had no offensive line. I don't think they scored a single point in that game as well. So the Giants, this season is a wrap. I'm sorry to say. I think, if we're being realistic about this situation, this season is a complete wrap already, even though it hasn't even begun. We're still in the month of May. But just with the fact that Daniel Jones is your quarterback, your running game really hasn't done anything besides get Devin Singletary, but you lost Saquon Barkley. I mean, yet just not this is not a great season for you. It really isn't. I'd be on. It's unfortunate. By the way, that week 1 game, 40-0 Cowboys, 40-0.
I know.
It's brutal, absolutely brutal. Yeah. Daniel Jones did not have a good game. 104 yards on 53% completion percentage, no touchdowns, 2 picks, 3.7 yards an attempt.
Yeah. Well, that game, the Cowboys defense was waiting for him when he got back to the pocket.
Well, he snapped the ball. Micah Parsons was already, whispering in his ear, "What's up, buddy?" So, I mean, the schedule itself.
They're going to regret not signing Saquon Barkley
because he's going to pretty hard schedule.
He's going to smoke them. He's going to smoke them. I think in both games that they play this year, he's going to have a lot of motivation to come in there and play well, and the Eagles have a decent offensive line, better than he ever played behind the Giants, right?
Yeah.
And look at how he did with the Giants. He had some very good seasons there when he didn't have much around him. They knew the ball was going to be handed to him. On the Eagles side, they have wide receivers. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a great quarterback who can also run the ball. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a career year this year.
Not only that,
to stay healthy.
The Giants are tied for the 6th hardest strength of schedule.
That's hard to believe, right? I mean, they had a lousy year last year. How could they have such a hard schedule?
I don't know. Green Bay's also there. Pittsburgh has the 3rd toughest schedule. Cleveland has the hardest schedule. Patriots tied for 8th hardest.
8th hardest.
8th hardest.
Them, huh? Wow. Who has the easiest schedule?
The easiest schedule, I believe, goes back to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons and the Saints, once again, are the easiest 2 schedules. It's because they play 6 games against horrible teams.
Yeah.
So, I was just say horrible, but they're in the worst division in football. So you're playing against, you're playing 6 games against teams within the worst division in football. This Giants team, though, it's not built to win. It's not built to make the playoffs, win a playoff game, and the scent of a Super Bowl is nowhere in sight, nowhere. You can't even imagine it with this team. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones, based on CBS Sports Power Rankings, is the worst quarterback in the NFL.
As
even below Bryce Young.
A fan, I've been a Giants fan for the NFC. I watch them. I guess I root for them in the NFC. I'm a diehard Patriots fan.
Kind of ironic that you like the Giants.
They're my number one team. But Bill Belichick winds up the Giants coach, man. I might even buy a jersey, a Giants jersey.
Well, it better not be a Daniel Jones one because those things will be maybe $5.
Yeah.
They're going to need a new quarterback. Drew Lock's not the future. You're going in.
Well, they'll be able to draft one. They'll have one of the top picks next year.
Is it Suck for Shador? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know if he's the one they'd want, but there'll be some good
Quinn
quarterbacks
Ewers
to pick from, so they can pick a quarterback.
At this point, I feel bad. I feel bad for 2 fan bases, Giants and Jets. And we're in New York, so it's even worse.
New York sports has had some tough years.
The Knicks.
Tough years.
The Knicks
aside from the Yankees.
Well, even then,
it's been
though.
Some long droughts for the Giants, I guess you could look back.
What, 2012
they did make
was
the
last time they won the
playoffs
Super Bowl.
the year before last, but the last Super Bowl was 2012
against the Patriots.
That's not so long ago.
This
But the
more than a
Knicks
decade ago.
haven't won a championship since 1973, I think, and
the Mets
Mets
86,
86, and the Jets 68 or 69.
It's been a very long time.
One of those years. It's been a really long time.
This New York sports is just, the Rangers are doing
It's a
well
tough
so
place
far.
to play. It's a tough place to play,
it's
man.
It's the second biggest market.
The spotlight is on you. It's like a laser beam, and the sports writers are very tough. There's a lot of them too.
Yeah. So, unfortunate, Daniel Jones probably won't. I'm saying, if we had to answer the question, how many games do you expect Daniel Jones to start? And we go with what I think is the most realistic and, ironically, the worst case scenario. Week 6 against the Bengals at home, Drew Lock will be the starter. 5 games.
My thought is he might
5
get
games.
in there. He might even get in there in week 3 if the Giants lose badly the first 2 games of the.
And what, he
Daniel
throws like
Jones
4
plays
picks?
terrible.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Drew Lock will be a whole lot better, and Daniel Jones might get back in there later on because Drew Lock is terrible too.
That could be the case.
Yeah.
It could be round robin like the Jets last season,
Yeah.
where it was Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson stuck throwing Trevor Siemian, but Trevor Siemian's not that great. You just have this entire unfortunate situation like the Jets did last season when they're trying to deal with the Aaron Rodgers thing. But, well, Giants, it really is unfortunate. Just 6-starter schedule, quarterback not great, running game not great. Offensively, Malik Neighbors is probably your best player. Defensively, though, you got some playmakers. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, a couple nice pieces. But in totality, no. Giants are not a very, very good team. But, of course, as always,
we'll see.
We'll
we
wait
may
and see.
eat our words, but I doubt it.
Hey, I was told to eat my words after I didn't give Daniel Jones top 10 quarterback ranking going into the season. Feel pretty good about it now.
Yeah.
I feel great about it now, actually. But let's get into our last topic of today's show. So, OG Anunoby is a game-time decision, and Josh Hart is also a game-time decision. And there was a report that came out a couple minutes before the show saying that Josh Hart suffered an abdominal strain, and he's attempting to try to play through the injury into signing Game 7. So there is no definite timeline on how bad it is, the severity of it, but all we know is it's not looking that great.
He's
Now,
a key rebounder. He's
absolutely.
a key rebounder with an abdominal injury. That's going to be tough.
I completely agree. With also Jalen Brunson not shooting well, Dante DiVincenzo didn't have a good second half. Miles McBride, they had to rely on him more. The Knicks are dwindling at a very rapid pace. It's a very, very scary pace. While the Pacers, at home, they struck gold every time. Crowd going crazy. Miles Turner hitting threes. Tyrese Halliburton having a very, very nice series when he's at home.
Knicks haven't lost at home against the Pacers.
Right. This is kind of like the Cleveland Magic series where the home team wins. So, will that be the case? Who do you think will close out this series in Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, the Indiana Pacers or the New York Knicks?
Well, I think there's several factors that play into this game that will decide who wins. And I think Brunson's shooting is number one. He's got to do better than he did the other night, last night. And he knows it, and the Pacers know it, and they're going to try the same strategy against him. What the Knicks have to do is adjust. They've got to move the ball around more. Brunson, if he's covered like that, he needs to dish it out and then circle back and maybe get open for a drive with an open shot. But they got to move the ball around a lot more. I think Josh Hart's health is very important here. He's a key rebounder. He's had some big games, scoring points and assists. He's a key factor. If he can't play, then that's going to be very, very hard for them. And Anunoby, I'm not counting on him to be out there, man. A hamstring tear is a serious injury, and coming back from that in a short period of time generally doesn't happen. And if he does, he's not going to be at 100% for sure. I think another key is the Knicks rebounding. They were dominant in the Game 5 win. They got to do that again. And why didn't they do it in the Game 6? I don't understand it. Where were they? They needed to do much better. The Game 6 rebounds on the offensive boards were almost even. That's a win for Indiana. Indiana rebounds led to extra possessions. They had 9 more shots than the Knicks last night. The Knicks can't let that happen. They've got to get on the glass. Indiana attacked the glass. They got the loose balls, and they played with more grit. And that's why they won. And the Knicks have got to rebound and make adjustments, moving the ball to side, trying to create some seams in the Indiana defense. I think DiVincenzo said it well. We understand how we won games all season and feel the Knicks feel like the team can respond on Sunday. It's will and who wants it more. I believe that, but not if you're severely undermanned. Right. If you're severely undermanned, Josh Hart can't play, then I think that you can have all the will you want, but there's just you can only have so many injuries before the other team is just deeper and their starting five are gonna play better. Who's going to compete harder for 48 minutes? That's key. The Knicks responded well after Game 4. The Pacers responded well after Game 5. The Knicks got to play harder for the full 48 minutes. Do they have the strength to do that? Are they too banged up to make a run? I don't know. I think that it's going to be very close. I'd say if Hart can't play, and Anunoby is, even if he's out there, we know he's going to be limited, I think the Pacers find a way to win.
Well, Jalen Brunson post-game actually talked about the unfortunate injuries that the Knicks have had, including what he expects Josh Hart, his availability to be in Game 7. So take a listen.
There's been a lot of things that obviously physically don't go our way with our team this year. But I think our main focus is that whoever we have out there, regardless of what you're dealing with or anything, if you're out there, you're ready to go. And that's just been our mindset. And so, yeah, Josh asked us to come out, but he comes back in and gives everything he has. And so we're working as preferred teammate.
Kind of on that note, what you know of Josh, what would you say about his status for Game 7? I
mean, I would assume he's playing. It's Game 7.
And that is true.
Yeah.
Game 7. It is literally you win or you go home. Yeah. There is no tomorrow. There is no, but we got another game.
No, I think he'll play too, but how effective can he be?
And I think we saw it in this game. He was hurt. He like Jalen Brunson said.
He only had 5 points. His stats were less than half of what they normally are in this game, largely because of that injury, I think.
Right. No, and that's exactly what we saw.
He didn't play in the fourth quarter.
Well, no, I'm saying that's what we saw. Like, he was banged up, and while Jalen Brunson correctly said he tried his very best to contribute out there, gave it his all, his effectiveness was basically zero. Because we've seen a Josh Hart where he scores 17 points, but also has 15 rebounds. And that's when they're up big or he makes a clutch three, and then the Knicks feel like they could beat anybody in the NBA. And then when Josh Hart maybe has only 7 rebounds and he has 5 points, it's like, oh my God, the Knicks have nobody. And that's kind of what this game looked like. Yes, Dante DiVincenzo had an incredible year this year shooting the 3-ball. Deuce McBride got an extension, and he played okay. He had a great game 1 of the Sixers series. He's had a couple very, very nice games where they needed him to step up. But in totality, hasn't been great. He had a good game in this game, but it amounted to really nothing. The free throws is like 0. They can't shoot free throws. They have a lot of, discrepancies from the free throw line. Mitch Robinson can't shoot free throws. We saw Precious Achiuwa. He shot 2 of 5 from the free throw line. Jalen Brunson even has sometimes difficulty shooting free throws. Now, he has had 1 or 2 games where he shoots a very, very high percentage. But in totality, he shot, 66%? This was it. I believe it's 66% from the free throw line. That can't work. You shot a total of 69.2% from the free throw line. I want to see low 80s at least. Low 80s. Because let's just say hypothetically, right? Let's say they make all their free throws. So they get 8 more points. That's 111, 116. You're telling me if you don't make more of your free throws, you get a little bit more life? You maybe get another second chance opportunity here and there. Someone makes a 3 because you get the hype of being in there. Josh Hart maybe plays a minute extra because you're that much closer. He pushes himself a little bit more. But instead, you're down by, 23 at one point. The game looks dead. Nobody's into it. You're sending out bench players that have yet to play at all in these playoff series. I mean, it just looked bad in its entirety. However, before the series started, we made our predictions. I said Knicks in 7 because what the Pacers have done in this series is exactly what I expected them to do, is to play fast, shoot the ball pretty well, have good offense,
play well at home and play terrible on the road.
I didn't care about the defense because I knew the Knicks being this thin, and at the time they weren't as thin as they are now, but being pretty thin on the depth side, they will be tired. And the Pacers, at their fast pace, high clip of offense, the Knicks will need to keep up with the Pacers or slow them down. Because then that allows Jalen Brunson to go off, basically, to make the big-time plays to keep them up. It allows Josh Hart to make a clutch 3. It allows Dante DiVincenzo to make a nice shot. But if you can't even slow them down, and the Knicks let up for a second, Jalen Brunson missing 11 straight shots, there is no chance you're winning this game. You cannot get into shooting slumps. And in Game 7, if Jalen Brunson, I'm making a crazy exact prediction, if Jalen Brunson in the first quarter shoots below 41%, Knicks are losing the game. Because based on the depth, they cannot allow the Knicks cannot allow Jalen Brunson, and it's crazy to think about him scoring 30 points and them not winning, but they just scored 31 points and lost by 13.
Is Mitchell Robinson,
He's done. He's completely done.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
Done. That's a problem.
It is.
Yeah. So I think that the Knicks maybe should start with the bigger lineup. Have
but you can't, though.
No, they could have Hartenstein and Achiuwa out there at the same time. They did that some in the game 5 at home, and it worked pretty well.
They've been starting the past 2 games.
They dominated on the boards when they had the big lineup out there. When they play that small lineup with just Hartenstein and then basically 4 guards out there,
right?
I don't think that's the best setup for them, particularly if the Pacers are doing well defensively against Brunson.
Yeah,
I think they need the bigger lineup out there so they limit the Pacers to 1 shot every possession. Last night, the Pacers were getting the loose balls after the shots. Loose balls, they came up with so many of them.
Yeah,
they got 9 extra shots compared to the Knicks. You can't let that happen tomorrow.
Right, because you have Precious, or you have Hartenstein, and then Hartenstein. If we're talking about size-wise, I mean the Pacers. You're starting Miles Turner. He's 6'11". Then you also got Pascal Siakam. He's 6'8". Neesmith is 6'5". You got some pretty big guys. Tyrese Halliburton as a guard is 6'5".
Yeah,
he's a big guard.
But those guys
Nembhard 6'5".
They had muscular like Hartenstein is a big dude. I mean,
right.
He's tall and he's also big.
Right.
So he can outmuscle those guys, and Achiuwa is pretty big too. I think both those guys on the court at the same time, some of the game, but that's hard to do when those are the only 2 centers you got, right?
And
if they both play the whole game, then they'll be all worn down, so they can't do it the whole game.
I'll say this though: offensively, putting Achiuwa in there is not great for you. That means you're going to rely on. Let's say they do start.
Well last night. He had 12 points.
He had 12 points, yeah. But we're talking about, and maybe that would have been good. Maybe, you could do this. Take Josh Hart out of the starting lineup. Have him come off the bench. Put in Achiuwa instead. You would have Brunson, McBride. Then you would have Dante, Achiuwa, Hartenstein.
Yeah.
Allow Jalen Brunson to get as healthy as he possibly can before getting on the court. And just pray and hope McBride gets hot again. Dante DiVincenzo gets hot again. And Jalen Brunson doesn't get into a complete cold streak.
And they dominate on the boards.
I think Harden
They hit their free throws and they don't turn the ball
free
over.
throws,
Then they have a chance to win.
Free throws, the Knicks are not going to hit. You can't expect them to go on there and shoot well from the free throw
They'll
line.
know how important it is. Maybe they'll focus a little more.
Hey, I mean, maybe. I went to, was it Game 5 Knicks Heat? Mitch Robinson needed to hit a couple free throws. A crowd was chanting, "Let's go, Mitch." I think he made 4 out of 4 free throws late in that game.
Yeah.
So maybe they will do that, but maybe not. Who knows? Tomorrow, 3:30 p.m., early game on ABC. Game 7, Indiana at New York Knicks.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be a great game to watch. But yeah, that does wrap up today's episode of the Harvey Hour. We appreciate all the support as always. But for this episode, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch me actually. You're busy on Tuesday. Catch me Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.